Yes, there we are. Isha, welcome to the world's best cricket club. Can you hear us all right?
Great to be on the show. Yeah, I can hear you. Simon, thanks for inviting me along. Was that one of yours, Yoza?
I wish I could say it was. I wish I could say it was. No, it's in the spirit of you, actually, because we know that you're married to a rock star, and some of his music's pretty raunchy, actually. So, is he with you, actually, Rich? Is he with you at the moment?
He is. He's just in bed though, so I can't get him to come say
Oh
hi.
no. Oh wow! Well, okay. Oh, well, I mean, he's got a new album out, we know, so we can play a bit of that later. Anyway, just to give you a formal introduction, Isha Guha, the World Cup winner from 2009, over 100 international appearances for England, and of course a familiar face and voice on TV and radio all over the world, actually. So thank you for coming. Give you a little round of applause. As you can tell, I'm a frustrated DJ. Simon, you and Isha have been working together for a long time, actually, haven't you?
Yeah, we have. It's fantastic actually to have Isha with us. I think it's great actually that we've been able to get her out of bed earlier than she normally would get out of bed. I think it's fair to say. What time is it, Isha, in Australia?
Yeah, it's 4 minutes past 7 in the morning now. I wouldn't normally wake up in the 6s unless it's an actual day of cricket. But I've done it for you boys, but also for the Cricketers Trust, which is, it's a really important cause. It's been such a tough year for so many people, and the cricketers as well. We know what sacrifices they've been through, and their families. So we are a cricket family, and hopefully we can raise some money for a good cause.
And you are actually involved in the trust, aren't you? Is that right?
Yeah, so I sit on the PCA board. So I'm not a trustee of the trust, but I will help to kind of make decisions around the PCA as a group, and the kind of will help, with the fundraising and stuff like that. So yeah, it's like I said, it's a cricket family. Everyone's been working so hard together this year. Behind the scenes, there's been a tremendous amount of work going on with all the staff, all the players. We know that people have taken cuts, and that they've been, cannot fault anyone really. Everyone's just been so amazing.
And we've talked actually quite a bit in the last couple of weeks about, and on our podcast as well, the Analyst Inside Cricket podcast, about the difficulty of the players are facing. One of the issues they're facing is being in the bubble, really, and it's happening out in Australia as well. But you've had to go through it as well, haven't you? I mean, tell us what happened when you arrived in Australia. It isn't just sort of stamp your passport, pick up your luggage, and off you go, and out into the wilds there. What was the situation?
Yeah, I mean, I guess this year has thrown up new sort of circumstances, and the best way of dealing with it is to you've almost just got to be prepared for anything, haven't you? Otherwise, it does become a bit too much. But in the week build up to actually flying, we still didn't know if we were coming out to Australia. So packed our bags, we were on the way to the airport, got a call from Australia saying visa hadn't been approved, turned around, went back home, had our bags in the living room, and we were sitting around for 3 or 4 days just waiting to see if it was going to happen or not. We were prepared for every eventuality, which was we both weren't going to be able to go. We both were going to be able to come to Australia, or I was going to be able to come and Rich wasn't. So, we are unbelievably thankful. It's been so difficult for even a lot of Australians to get back into their country. So, just to be able to get here was amazing. The actual flight was an experience. You have to wear your mask the whole time.
God, that must have been
but to be honest, everything was run really smoothly up until the time we got to Australia, whereby it is just potluck as to which hotel you're put in. So at the same time in Perth, Shane Warne was quarantining and Mike Hussey. So I was like messaging them to get advice on what to expect. We heard horror stories on the bus to the hotel about how, at the start of lockdown, people were escaping by tying bed sheets together. So literally from that point on in Perth, no one had a balcony, so we were again just preparing ourselves for the fact that there would be no fresh air in the room. And yeah, you're basically in a room together, not allowed to leave. We handled it okay in the fact that we got into a bit of a routine. I had loads of calls to make back home in the evenings and stuff like that. We did a bit of exercise in the mornings, and yeah, I mean, me and Rich are never short of things to do. Like there's always something for us to do. And actually, we're probably the latest ever people to Harry Potter. So we completed Harry Potter in quarantine.
That's good.
It does strike me actually that, I mean, a lot of people, I don't know, a lot of people on, listening to this tonight, the idea of being with your spouse in a room for 2 weeks, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know.
Well, I know what you're going to say, Simon. I know what you think about it. Well, at least I know what Alex thinks about it.
You're still married. Well, that's great. That's a massive positive.
Well, actually, and you can tell also that the fact that, if for a sort of some in the past, commentators and certainly players would have been in quite a small room where you could see your spouse, in the corner there. But you obviously got a bit more space where you can sort of have a little bit of a lounge or office area. So they've looked after you well. Well, now, where are you exactly? We want to see where you are, because I think you're in the Rocks somewhere, aren't you? Which is that suburb of Sydney.
I'm not
close to the bridge.
Yeah, I'm not actually in the Rocks. I'm actually further out towards Bondi, but and I didn't want to rub it in. So
go on, give us a glimpse. Go on.
Okay, so I'm on level 7 here, and it's actually it's a relatively clear. It's been really sunny lately. Don't know if you can see the Harbour Bridge in the background there.
It's a bit.
Can you see that?
That's
the city. That's the city over there. That's there.
Yeah. Can't actually see the Harbour Bridge quite.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay.
Gorgeous.
Well, I'm very, very fortunate to be where I am. It's really close to the beach and close to the SCG, so I can get to work really easily. And yeah, it's perfect, to be honest.
So what was the first thing you did when you came out of those 14 days of lockdown in Perth, just in that hotel? You're going to love this, Simon. What was the first thing you did?
So we were desperate for some alcohol.
As I am, actually. Carry on.
We wanted to be outside, and we wanted to be in an environment where we could have a drink. So many people on this call, if they've been to Australia, if they've been to Perth during the Ashes, they would know this spot. It's called the Lucky Shag. It's just on the water there, and the Barmy Army usually set themselves up there. It was a WBBL final at the time, so we wanted to have a bit of cricket in the background. So somewhere that had cricket, some alcohol, and some people around, and it was extraordinary, really. We went down there, and it was absolutely heaving. There was no social distancing, like everyone was just hanging out like a normal pub scenario, and yeah, we were just in our element, I guess. But yeah, it just so amazing to see how Australia have coped with everything. It is relatively normal out here. I mean, people aren't walking around with masks, you don't have a social distance, but that's purely because everyone that comes in has to quarantine. So yeah, we're very fortunate.
Actually, I read, we had an email, Simon, that was sent to you actually, but he didn't have your email address, saying a guy who's come out to Australia into Brisbane, and he had a police escort from the airport and straight into the hotel room. They didn't even get given a hotel key because they weren't allowed out of the room. So they stayed in the room for like nearly 10 days. And the only time they're allowed to open the door was to take food in. That was...
That's
quite normal.
That's what it is. I mean, you base your routine around when you're going to eat. So you get little slots morning.
They love it, don't they? Actually, the Australians are frustrated police state, really, aren't they? I mean, if you go to Perth or somewhere like that, I mean, no umbrellas. You can't put your hand out the window when you're driving. There's some weird rule that you can't carry more than 2 pounds of potatoes at a time in Western Australia, where I've lived. And they have some crazy rules, which, COVID has just sort of exacerbated, I guess.
Well, isn't it, from when the convicts came over? So that they felt that they have to they have to be on the money.
We've got a couple of Aussies in our club actually, so we better be polite about them. Let's just we're going to look at a little bit at your cricket career and a little bit at your broadcasting career tonight. I'd just like to talk about your bowling initially, actually, because I mean, for a start, I looked up the Women's World Cup final 2009, which you played in, and the crowd was 2,300. That's only 10 years ago, 11 years ago. And it was played at North Sydney Oval. So, a nice ground, but, not a stadium. And now, the women's game, it's filling up the Melbourne Cricket Ground or Lords, obviously, for the final a couple of years ago. It's amazing how it's changed. But one thing I've always thought about women's cricket is they're actually, although they're not as powerful as the men, obviously, they have beautiful style and rhythm and balance, a lot of players. It's almost like a throwback, actually, to an older sort of era of men's play where, there's real style and kind of balance and sort of fluidity about it. And I thought that about your bowling action. So I'm just going to show you a bit of your bowling action here, which the only clip I could find was from a masterclass you did a while ago. But if I just play this, you might remember, I think it's probably at Lords. It's just a little bit of bowling there. And what I was really noticing was a lovely rhythmical run up, and this landing there. I mean and I think you talk about it on the masterclass actually. Brace front leg, fantastic action, and quite unusual, I think, for a girl to have a brace front leg as well. Lovely rhythmical bit of outswing there. And I just think that it's, you see a lot of pretty ugly actions in cricket generally, and, in both men's and women's cricket, but this is like really beautiful. It's sort of Jimmy Anderson sort of rhythm and positioning. It's great. What do you think?
Thanks, Simon. You're making me blush. I have to say, prior to that, I was not like that at all. So I remember being, I don't know, maybe 9, 10, 11 years old, and I used to bowl off the wrong foot. And then all of a sudden it just clicked for me. Yeah, it just, in the middle of the game, because I used to watch the guys on television, I used to go, well, I don't really bowl like that. And then I would try and do it in the nets, And then in the middle of a game, I think I must have been 9 years old at the time, it just clicked for me, and I managed to bowl off the right foot. And then even at the start of my England career, my arms were sort of everywhere, and I really had to kind of work technically on keeping everything a bit more compact, and making sure it was, it was a lot more efficient. But I always had a tendency, because you would have noticed there as well, my left foot, I don't actually land my heel.
Which is the same as me. I don't know whether I was exactly the same.
I don't know if that's a short thing where you feel like you need to propel yourself a bit more to get that extra height.
Raise up higher, yeah.
Yeah. But that, so I don't know whether that caused a little bit of instability, because sometimes I would sort of come over my hip and sometimes a little bit. So, but it was I guess I used to have quite a whippy action. I used to play a lot of badminton when I was younger, so my shoulder was quite whippy when it came through.
Why did you start playing cricket, Isha? How did it all begin?
Yeah, classic story, really. Actually, for a lot of the girls, it would probably be something similar. Brother played, he's 7 years older than me, but I guess also my parents coming from India, it was always going to be in the genes, and it would always be on television. Dad would always tell us stories about going to Kolkata and Eden Gardens and watching the cricket there. And he was telling me a story recently, actually, about heading down there to watch India play England. And one of the Cowdreys, I think, was captain. So Cowdrey was captain, and he was having some fun with one of the players on the boundary, and just from kind of reviving stories of back in the day when he used to like rush to the ground and get to see all the action. So yeah, and from an early age, he would take us to Lords as well. So day one of the test, the Lords test, he would take us all along as a family. And I was introduced to sport pretty early on. You know, mum and dad wanted me to be involved in lots of different sports. You know, I basically copied everything my brother did: badminton, tennis, hockey, cricket. And it was, yeah, it was their influence really that allowed me to kind of pursue that dream. I didn't know there was a women's team at all for the first couple of years that I was playing. I started with a boys team, and yeah, I used to try and kind of chase after the ball when my brother was practicing in the back garden. It was perfect cricket wicket, long fin, greenhouse on the right as I was running into bowl. So a few of those windows got smashed when I was batting because I love the leg side. But again, just classic scenario. Brother would get me out really early, and then I'd spend the rest of the evening bowling uphill into the wind.
Yeah. That's the way of it with siblings, isn't it? They want to bat and they want to make you bowl.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I learned how to bowl long spells from an early age.
When did you think you were any good? When did you think, oh, hold on a second, I actually can play this game. I might be able to make something of it.
Yeah. I think so. As a kid, you build confidence through your performances, and so I slowly started dropping other sports. So I kept cricket in the summer and badminton in the winter, and I guess being part of a boys team, that really helped with my confidence because, well, it's pretty obvious you're the only girl. But the other thing was, you know, which I've thought about a lot more recently in the last couple of years, is I was encouraged by a lot of people around me. I was the only British Indian within that team of British boys and British Pakistani, and mum and dad never saw that as an issue, and so no one else did. So I felt very comfortable in that environment, and I was successful. You know, I would get wickets. The boys would be afraid of getting out to me. I used to love that feeling. And then dad set up a girls section at the club because there weren't any women's teams really around at the time. He tried to seek out places I could go play. And by the age of 11, I was playing for the under-21 Thames Valley side. So I was already getting these opportunities with older players. And that's when I first met Claire Taylor, who was playing for England at the time. And then I kind of got fast tracked to playing for the full side, which had 3 former England players in there already at the age of 12, 13. So they were relatively early experiences for me. But I guess at that stage, that's when I realised that I was kind of mixing it with some of the best players.
And who was your idol? I mean, who did you kind of try and copy the most and sort of really admire?
Yeah, again, it'll be similar for a lot of female cricketers my era because there just wasn't any women's cricket on television. So it was always Darren Gough for me. Watching England play, the way he used to run in and bowl, his charisma, he always used to make things happen. I mean, he was my idol right up until the time I met him.
And then you quickly went off him. Well, tell him you said that.
No, he's a good friend. Like, I absolutely love Goughy. I love his bubbly personality. In fact, he is an absolute. Well, Catherine Brunt is a carbon copy of Darren Gough, like basically the same personality. But they obviously both come from Barnsley, and just have this strong desire to win, but also just bring everyone with them as well. So yeah, I used to. It wasn't necessarily just his ability; it was his charisma, always wanting to make something happen on the field.
Don't tell me you had a picture of him on your bedroom wall.
No, but I was part of the Darren Gough Cricket Academy when I was 13, which got shown on Channel 4, which you might have seen actually, Yoza. But yeah, so I would have been 12 or 13 going up to Headingley and being part of all of that. And we got a picture together, and that picture is at home at my parents'.
Well, it's a good role model, actually. Yeah, I mean, and in a way, that charisma is important as a bowler. You know, you can see that in someone like Stuart Broad, who, you know, he gets the moment, he grabs the moment, doesn't he? And he really gets into that sort of zone in a way. And that you know, force of personality can definitely take wickets.
Yeah, and I was always probably, I always loved to be in the battle, and that's how I kind of got myself up for a lot of games, and yeah, I mean, I probably struggled a bit more with when there was a huge amount of expectation, for example, a TV game or a World Cup final. I mean, I don't think I bowled that well actually in that World Cup final, but I always wanted
You got the
to
first
contribute.
wicket, didn't you?
Yeah, it was a wide ball that should have been smashed through
they
the
all count.
before,
I got plenty of wickets like that.
All of yours wickets were like that, yours.
Oh, shut up. It's beginning to feel like that, actually, yeah. But let's go to some questions from the audience. Welcome, everybody, by the way. I apologise for not mentioning you all earlier. I've seen you all arriving. John and Richard and Jacob and Claire and Tom and Will and all the other guys and girls who are in our club. Welcome. And don't forget, by the way, I've posted some merchandise ideas, some mugs and some mouse mats, Christmas idea, present ideas. And also you can buy 3 months in advance for this club as well as a present for somebody. So look out for that on the WhatsApp group. Scott Moody, who Isha actually is Australian, he knows Shane Warne very well. They were colleagues at the Australian Academy, and he's a leg spinner and coach. And he says, he's not with us tonight, but he says your best bowling performance on paper was the 5 for 40 you took against Australia. I know from my own playing career that sometimes your best performance on paper isn't the best you have bowled. Was that performance against the Aussies your best spell in Test cricket, or is there another one you rate higher?
No, it was my best spell. There was a spell in one-day cricket. Or whatever, a couple of them, but no, that was the one I always wanted to replicate. And just to give you a bit of context, I hadn't featured too much on the limited overs tour, much to my frustration, and eventually did get an opportunity at the SCG, didn't really take it. So I wasn't expecting to play the test match. And then I think it was the day before we found out that Jenny Gunn was not going to be able to play through illness, and so they got me in, and I was so desperate to it always hit me harder if I wasn't playing a test match. I don't know, it's because, you know, you have to wait around for 4 days and be 12th person, but I was so desperate to play in this game. And, you know, turning up to Bowral that morning, obviously it has an aura about it anyway, with the history and you know, Donald Bradman, and there's a white picket fence around the ground. It's really picturesque sort of venue, and it was a relatively green surface, a lot of greenery around. The conditions were overcast. It basically felt like I was in England. So I had this kind of good vibe about it already. And then I managed to get a wicket pretty early on. So I remember being quite nervous, but I got a wicket early, and then I was into my spell. And it was one of those spells where, I mean, the best players in the world, they talk about it as like a white moment whereby you just feel invincible. That's as a batter, as a bowler. And those times come around quite frequently for the best players. For me, it probably came around once or twice in my international career, but that spell bowling, that test match, I just felt like nothing could touch me. Every single ball I was running into bowl, I felt like I could get someone out, and if a catch was going to go through slips, it was always going to find a fielder, it was going to find gully. Claire Taylor moved herself two steps to the left, it found her. And it was just, to be able to do that against the Australians was special.
One thing you said earlier, Isha, you loved the battle when you were bowling. So what sort of bowler were you in terms of your temperament? Were you chatting away at the batsman? Were you Were you sledging the batsmen? What was it like playing against the Australians? Is it all nice out there, or is it actually, you know, pretty gritty out on the field?
No, definitely gritty. Definitely. I mean, the women kind of ran parallel with the men in terms of the Australian women dominated for a good decade while them ended as well. So when I first came into the team in 2002, you know, a lot of the senior players had baggage of playing against Australia. Like, rarely ever did we beat them. In fact, we never beat them. In 2005, that was a really significant moment. It was the first time we beat them in a one-day international for 10 years. And the first time we beat them in a test series for 43 years or something like that. So it was, you know, playing against Australia was always quite a daunting prospect. But a few of us youngsters coming into the team, myself, Catherine, Lydia, we didn't have that baggage. And so for us, it was just any game. And we just wanted to play against the best and be able to perform against the best. So yeah, that sort of battle I talk about in the middle, it was more actually with myself. I would kind of berate myself if I didn't bowl as well as I could, but that would kind of gee myself up to kind of bowl better. And I could never really, I wasn't good at sledging, just because
Too nice.
I just didn't want it to backfire on me. I'm just not very good at that.
What was the worst thing you said on the field? What was the worst thing you said on the field? Is there a moment we thought, oh, why did I say that? Or is that me?
Can you call an opposition player a bitch on the field?
Yeah, you probably could, but not that I have said it directly to anyone. No. I mean, Catherine used to say some outlandish things like, yeah, I don't know if it's stuff I can actually reveal on here, but it would be so bad to the point it would be hilarious. So I think the opposition actually just found it funny. But no, I couldn't. I just, yeah, I just had to kind of have that battle within myself to be able to perform.
What about playing with men? I mean, did you ever get slaved with them? Because my daughter does. She played school cricket for a long time, and you know, with boys, and they made snide comments more than anything about kind of, oh, she better go off and do her hair and all this sort of stuff. I mean, did you get much of that, or not really?
Not that I remember. No, I don't remember ever feeling like I wasn't supported.
Mind you doesn't break an arm. Mind you doesn't break a fingernail or something, you know.
Yeah, no, I never really had that. I did get it a little bit from opposition parents, so they would just be so distraught with their son having to play against a girl. It was like, oh, we don't want to play. I remember, so I would have been 12. We were playing a game against Marlow Park under 13s, and they turned up with 6 players. So their other players got conveniently lost. They didn't want to forfeit the game, so they turned up with 6 players. We ended up batting first, got 200 plus, and then I was opening the bowling. First over gets bowled, goes for no runs, and then I come in and bowl, and I end up taking. So this is actually, my dad tells this story in quite a funny way, because he came from work. He'd had a really long day at work, and he turns up and he's asked to score. So he's like, oh no, really, do I have to do it? So he goes in the score. He goes to do the scoring, and I end up taking a wicket first ball. I think it was bowled, but then proceeded to take the rest of the wickets within the over. So it was 5 wickets in an over, and Dad was so delighted that the game finished within like 10 minutes that he brought us all around a Ribena. But the excuse the next day was that the sun had been in the boys' eyes, which is why I'd got all those wickets, which I always remember. But yeah, no, it was, I guess they were just too embarrassed to get out to a girl.
Listen, Isha, I played years of club cricket with people who make all sorts of excuses. The umpire gave me the wrong guard was a great one. I remember.
Actually, I'll tell you one. Ian Botham once got out playing for Durham, and he had a big slog against John Stevenson of Essex, right? And he got bowled, and he walked off staring at the sight screen and sort of pointing, finger pointing at the sight screen. And when he came off, we said, "Well, what are you pointing at the sight screen for?" And he said, "Well, somebody was flashing a mirror in my eyes. Flashing a mirror in my eyes, and that's why I missed it." I said, "How would you know? Your head was pointing up there." And he nearly wrapped the bat around me. Actually, it wasn't a very wise response. A couple of people here saying Angela Bryce says looks like the Menton Suites at Bondi Junction.
Meriton Suites.
Meriton, yeah.
Sorry,
yeah.
Meriton Suites.
Yep,
that's right. Well done, Angela. And Richard Shelley. Now, Richard Shelley, are you ready with your question? Because we might go to you next. But he says on the chat box here, was it not Mike Proctor who bowled with the wrong foot? Simon Mann, one of your heroes.
Well, he actually, Isha was talking about Darren Gough being her hero. When I was growing up, you mentioned Ian Botham, actually, there was a huge rivalry among supporters in the West Country over Ian Botham against Mike Proctor, because Ian Botham was, of course, Somerset's great all-rounder, and Mike Proctor was Gloucestershire's great all-rounder. So Proctor was actually, he as a Gloucestershire follower, he was the person I actually really admired, and I always wanted him to outdo Ian Botham. Actually, they did play. There was one evening where they played a single wicket competition at the ground in Bristol. They sort of head to head, and they sold loads of tickets for it.
Brilliant.
And from memory, I think Proctor won the head to head. Anyway, Mike Proctor, he looked as if he bowled off the wrong foot, but he didn't. I think that's fair to say, yours, isn't it?
No, I don't think it is fair to say. Right. I think he did just bowl slightly off the wrong foot. His left. I mean, we could analyze it. We'll analyze it next week because I haven't got the footage with me. But he just lands very, very lightly on his front foot as his arm comes over. So it comes over a bit earlier. Amazing thing about him is he never saw himself bowl until he was 23, 24, when he first saw himself on telly. And he said, "Who's that?" He said, "Who's that bowling?" Yeah. And someone said, "That's you." And he went, "What? Do I bowl like that?" He couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's you don't see it very much now, do you? But except at sort of primary school or something.
Yeah.
Sahel Tanvir.
Yeah.
Sahel Tanvir. Yeah. He's still playing, isn't he? He's still playing in the Pakistan Super League, I see.
Yeah.
It worked for Mike Proctor. Anyway, I wonder whether we should, we've talked about Isha's cricket. I wonder whether we should talk about her broadcasting. And,
also, Richard Shelley's got a good question, actually, which links that. So, Richard, there you are. Where's your Wisdons, Richard? I can't see your Wisdons today.
No, I've been thrown out the spare room. Wife's in there using the bigger screen for her Zoom meeting. So,
oh God, the whole world is on Zoom. Go on anyway, Richard. Good to see you. What's your question?
Yeah, even to Simon. So it's a question around how difficult did you find it when you transplayed from being a player to the media in what was probably a male-dominated industry at the time, and probably still is? And was it different from country like England to Australia? Do you find different the way it's accepted that a female is in cricket commentary and in the media?
Yeah. Yeah, good question. So I kind of stumbled into the media, really. I'd done some bits and bobs for Sky and the BBC prior to 2011, but and this is where Yoza comes in. So I received a message on Twitter, actually, because there was no other way of getting hold of me, obviously, saying, "Do you want to come in? It'd be great to chat to you about some work." It was with ITV, and I thought, yeah, why not? Sounds fun. Went in. They were hosting the IPL a couple of weeks later on ITV4. I thought, oh, I've done a bit of punditry in the past, so that's probably what they want me for. Went in, and I was super excited. I was like, yeah, great. And then the boss at the time, Tony Pastor, who I know Simon knows very well, Simon Hughes, just said, "Oh well, our normal presenter, she's pregnant, and we'd love for you to do it." So I obviously was a bit taken aback, never done it before in my life, but did a screen test and just said to myself, I'm just going to embrace it. I'm just going to, it's an opportunity. Let's just have a bit of fun. And so I did a couple of weeks on that. I was horrendous. Yoza will know my early days of presenting on ITV4, where I didn't know which camera to look at. I was unbelievably wooden. But the thing that got me through it all was my cricket knowledge and the ability to ask cricket questions. But myself and Yoza worked on that quite a bit.
Do you want to see a bit? I found a bit. Actually.
No, I don't want to see a bit.
No, you can just see a little bit of this. Okay, so this is just a little bit from the studio.
With the former Zimbabwe's fast bowler, Pommy Mbangwa.
Welcome back. Before the break, we saw Kings 11 Punjab set a target of 157 in their first innings. This is how Chennai Super Kings got on in reply. That's all from us here in the studio. See you again soon. Just 3 words from me now. Horrible, Lorable, Jitbo.
What does that mean?
It means can do, will do, with it.
What do you think?
I cannot watch that.
Well, I'm equally,
That is horrible.
So, sorry.
I can't believe you put me through that, Yoza.
But it's sort of it's evolution, isn't it? It's important.
But the other thing, which I'm interested in Simon Mann's comments here, because my voice has changed drastically in that time. So Henry Moran, who's one of our producers at BBC, sent through a clip in the summer of me on radio. Would have been sort of 9 years ago, and my voice is just so different. It's just changed so much. Like it's unrecognizable. Actually.
I think your voice is great. Actually, I think honestly, I think your voice is fantastic. It's very soothing. It's got more sort of up and down and sort of expression now than it used to have. Because I think it's confidence, isn't it?
So you're saying I used to be monotone?
On the sofa 2011, like that clip I just showed, you're nervous. We're all nervous, when we haven't done it much before. Once you're relaxing into it, you're more natural. There's a word, isn't there? Timbre, Timbre, which is that sort of tone of voice. And I think you're really good to listen to, actually.
Thanks, Giles. I appreciate that. But just back to the question.
Back to the question, yeah.
Yeah, I've never, I've always really appreciated the support I've had in the commentary box, and the likes of yourself, Yoza, Simon Mann as well. He's been amazing. You've been amazing on my journey as a radio broadcaster, and getting the specifics right and being disciplined as a lead radio broadcaster. And I think it's like any team, rather than being a female in a male world, it's any team that you join, people are always going to feel threatened, and you have to earn their respect. So that's regardless whether you're in a media environment or a playing environment. Whatever team you are part of, you have to earn your stripes, and that's what I've always endeavoured to do in any situation that I'm in, and just been very grateful for my opportunities as well. Early days, I didn't consider it a career because there just weren't that many opportunities for females, and if anything, it was what a great experience that I'm getting here, and the plan was always to kind of do the science thing. So to start getting more and more opportunities around the world was fantastic. And then for me, it was a case of, right, I want to learn all the different skills of broadcast, which is, being a lead commentator, a summarizer, TV, radio, reporter, presenter. They're all different skills that you need. And yes, in answer to the question of globally, how people respond to females in broadcast, I was actually really surprised. So I spent a lot of time in the UK and India and the Caribbean early days. And then I got an opportunity out in Australia, probably 5 years ago now, working for a radio broadcaster called Triple M, who it was a very laddie station, but I used to listen to them all the time when I was living over here. And I just thought, hang on a sec, I just have no idea how this is going to go down. I'm female, I'm British Asian. Who knows how this is going to go? And because it hadn't really happened too much in the past in Australia, and I was very fortunate, it went down really well. But I do credit the people around me at the time. So I'm a massive one for your male colleagues or your fellow commentators have the ability to make you look better than what you actually are, just through asking you questions, through talking about you, through having that dynamic where you're having fun in the commentary box, and that comes through the TV screen or in radio. And that's what happened in Australia, and I'm very thankful for that.
Actually, it's a validation in a way, isn't it? And it's particularly the case. I mean, what applies to both of us, Simon and I, and you, is similar in that none of us have played Test cricket, men's Test cricket, and so there is that kind of at times, you have to try and earn the people who have played 100 tests respect. And actually, the kind of key person for me was Richie Benaud, who he just said, look, I'm interested in what you've got to say. I find what you say interesting, stimulating. So you forget then that you haven't got the medals, which some people want to see, and that really helps, I think. If someone of that sort of stature who says, I find what you say interesting, is a huge confidence booster, isn't it?
Also, yours, Anisha, we're not playing cricket, we're broadcasting. So the people who are playing cricket, they are, that in a strange way, they are in a foreign environment because they're having to do something that they hasn't been their career. Our career, or my career anyway. You obviously played, and Anisha as well. I look at it like this: that in a way, they're in my world. And I've been broadcasting for 30 odd years, so I sort of feel that I know something about it in a way. So I think I hold on to that. And yeah, I mean, it's an interesting point actually. If you're sitting next to a former England captain, with 100 Test matches, then you are conscious of them thinking, well, what do they know about the game? But actually, what you're doing is you're broadcasting. You're trying to put a broadcast on, you're not putting a cricket match on. You're putting a broadcast on.
And I think most players who come into the commentary box recognize that as well. It's so strange being in the position I am now and seeing inexperienced sort of former player broadcasters coming in and seeing how vulnerable they are in the fact that they don't quite know where they're looking or when to speak and that sort of thing, and you have to guide them through that. And I think they do absolutely appreciate that. And in any commentary box that I've been in, there's always been someone there to kind of help me through and kind of give me advice. But at the end of the day, you've just got to do it to be able to learn and to get the experience. Watching yourself back, listening to yourself back, which is something that I really just didn't want to do for the first 5 years of my career.
It was actually,
but it is.
I was going to say, it's just actually fascinating watching you, a decade ago, doing the IPL. I mean, everyone who's broadcast will look back 10 years, 20 years, whatever, and think, oh my God, was that me in those days? Everyone will have that moment, and you hope, actually what you hope is that people haven't kept those moments and don't produce them in moments.
Unfortunately,
like
in the era, you shouldn't have been born in the era of YouTube, because there's always going to be that stuff knocking around. But I mean, Gary Lineker, when he first started broadcasting, was absolutely terrible. He was wooden. So, he was like this desk. He was that bad. I mean, he was just terrible. But he had so much help, and in the end, he became brilliant. And look, you've got lots of validation here, because Mango says Isha comes across as a master of the material. Surely she means mistress. That comes across when she broadcasts. Derek Carlos says, I agree, Simon. Isha has a superb voice to listen to, particularly on the radio. Oh, so he doesn't want you on telly so much. That's interesting. So, lots of people saying nice things. Now, Will Gould agrees, and Will Gould has a question for you or two. If you're there, Will, familiar face and voice. Hopefully you can unmute yourself, and you've got a nice backdrop as well. How are you?
Yeah. Good, thank you. Hi, Isha. I'm very,
Hi,
very
Will.
jealous of you over in Australia, with it being, 27 plus degrees over here and it being minus 10 over here. It's absolutely freezing.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. I hope you're having a lovely time over there. I love your work that you do on TMS and all that. My question to you kind of relates back to what has kind of already been said. You do a lot of work broadcasting for both TMS in the UK and also as of this year, obviously on the TV, and also you do some work for Fox TV, obviously over in Australia. I've watched you over in Australia, and I was just wondering, is there any kind of like differences that you've got to kind of put into fact between broadcasting to an English audience as to an Australian audience? So that's my first question. And my second question is a point that was raised a few weeks ago, Simon. I think you or one of the other guys mentioned it about Sophie Ecclestone. Now, she is the #1 T20 bowler in the world at the minute. Do you think she has the capability in, say, the next, say, maybe 2-3 years to play like men's county cricket?
Right, so two separate questions there. But
Yeah.
Okay.
So the difference between commentating in Australia and England is a good question.
Yeah. So Australia, I would say, is probably a bit more. They use the term banter.
Yes.
I probably don't hold back as much as I do in the UK. So in the UK,
because they're very kind of like boisterous over in Australia.
And I actually quite like that style.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I enjoy that style because I don't have to think about. Yeah,
especially when they play England, obviously. But
yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, and that is just I guess the Australian culture is just to have a bit more fun with it. Don't take yourself too seriously, and I probably don't think about things as much when I'm here. Whereas in the UK, I'm definitely more aware of what I'm saying, because you've got quite a vast audience that you need to work with in the UK, I think, and there are a lot of traditionalists out there who want things done in a certain way. So you're always kind of trying to marry up what the best way of broadcasting is, and try and keep everyone happy. So I mean, with the BBC TV, we were very keen to kind of move away from a traditional kind of style, having a 3-person commentary team. It allows for a bit more kind of dialogue and fun, but at the same time wanting to not be too patronizing to the current kind of cricket fans, but also just try and bring in the new audience. So that was really fascinating for me in the summer, just trying to get to grips with that. But I'd say that's probably the main difference. And then on Sophie Ecclestone, no reason why she can't. I think if she was playing a lot of men's cricket, I think, absolutely. I think she is one person that could definitely cross over. She's got the height, she's got the skills and the attributes to be able to do it. And I'd back her in 100%.
She actually said on this show that she's got Jack Leach said, because we had them on together, her and Jack Leach, and Jack Leach said she's got a better action than I have. And that goes back to what I said before about the girls and women playing the game often have better technique actually than the men. And Sophie's definitely one of those. I'd go as far as to say, I'd go as far as to say she's the best. I think she's the best left arm spinner in England at the moment, men or women.
She's the best left arms. Right. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I would back her to get wickets in men's cricket. She was saying, actually, wasn't she, that she'd be more worried about the batting, having to face, 90 mile an hour bouncers. And Jack Leach said, well, yeah, it's pretty bad for me as well. So, yeah.
Well, that's what I always think with batters, is that I always wondered if, say, Sarah Taylor or Heather Knight, if they'd have been playing, and they did, they were on men's academies at the age of 16, 17, but if they'd have continued that all the way through their career and they were constantly facing 90 mile an hour bowling, I'm sure they'd be able to transfer that to county cricket. But it's just, you do still need, like, there's just not enough time to be able to train for that, as well as training for your own sport, for your own kind of, because it's different facing women, and the paces that they bowl and the size cricket balls and all that sort of thing. But yeah,
that's a good point. Actually, the size of
I'd
the
love to
ball.
see.
Somebody else said that actually, the ball size might be a bit inhibiting for a woman spinner. Actually, playing men's cricket.
Yeah, definitely. And I've sort of been trying to figure out what the best thing is for a few years now. I've actually been in touch with a few people about the size of a ball, but from my point of view, so I didn't actually realize this until I retired, but the women's size kookaburra has a greater variation in diameter than a men's size cricket ball, and at any given point the women's ball can actually be larger than the smallest men's ball. So for me, you'll be able to see my hands, they're absolutely tiny. And I used to feel like I could grip the reader's ball a lot better than a kookaburra. And I actually think if the women's ball was slightly smaller, you'd be able to get more swing, you'd be able to get more zip off the pitch, more revs on the ball as a spinner. And that should be the first port of call before we start to talk about sort of changing the pitch length and all that sort of stuff. I think having a smaller ball would just make such a huge difference.
So Scott Moody says, are opportunities opening up for women cricket coaches to coach men's cricket?
Yeah, I think so. I know Jenny Gunn is coaching a men's team at the moment. Catherine Brunt has done in the past. Nikki Shaw, former England cricketer, used to coach up at Loughborough. And I think absolutely that there's no reason to say women can't do that. It's just about more women being given opportunities. And I've learned so much just from commentating, actually. Just playing, working around the world, watching as much cricket as I have, as I'm sure you both will agree, is you learn so much from just watching the game. And
it's the best kind of coaching, almost.
Yeah, and I would feel, like I could go into an environment where I could actually have a say about a few things, technically and coaching wise. So there's absolutely no reason to say why women can't do that.
We got Ian Wigston.
Yeah, go on then.
Up on screen. Is Ian with us? I'm pretty sure he is, actually.
I'd love to know where Jacob is, by the way. Jacob seems to be I reckon he looks like he's in Cornwall in the middle of winter, in the middle of the day, actually, with his wife or daughter or something there, or friend anyway. Sorry, Ian, what's your question?
Good evening, Isha. Great to have, or good morning rather. Good to have you with us. When you're doing radio and TV commentary for the same match, how difficult is it to transition between the two? Which for you demands more energy? Do you have separate personas for the two?
Yeah, another good question. Yes, it was very difficult when I first started doing it. There was a Women's World Cup 3 years ago where I was working TV and radio and literally no breaks in between, and it was very hard to get it right. So television, you kind of just, you've got the pictures there, you're just adding to the pictures, and sometimes when your radio commentary comes in, you're just saying everything that's happening, which you don't need to do. You end up talking too much, actually. And so these days, if I have to do it, I like to have a good sort of 20 minutes in between, just so I can get my mindset ready for what I'm about to do. I think radio summarizing is probably the easiest of the lot, so really don't need to think about that at all. It just comes really just easily.
Storytelling, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just explain the difference, Isha, between summarize, what you mean by summarizing.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so well, do you want to?
No, you
explain
can
it.
No, you're perfectly capable.
She just wants to. She wants a drink. She wants a drink of water or something.
Well, I'll explain it. I'll explain it if you want a drink of water.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the commentator in radio, we have a commentator and a summariser, and the commentator, and this would be very obvious to a lot of people, but sometimes we use terms that we use jargon that people don't always necessarily understand. But the commentator is the person who on radio does the ball by ball, the nuts and bolts, X bowls to Y, X hits it, 2 runs, whatever, wherever the ball's gone.
And tell the listener the score,
and tell the score as well, yeah. And the summariser, what we call the summariser, is the person who analyses it. So basically, someone like me or Isha, if she's commentating on radio, we say what's happened, and the summariser is the ex-player, whatever, who tells you why it's happened and breaks it down and explains what's going on in the game. And sometimes those lines are a little bit blurred. And Isha, of course, has both summarised as an ex-player and as commentator. Now she is a commentator on radio. You've probably done a little bit of summarising from time to time recently, but you're more a commentator now. And you should also explain, Isha, actually, as well. You talked about lead commentator on TV. Probably a lot of people watching this might think, well, it's just, on TV, I'm not, there are 2 ex-players on television. Is there a lead? Is there a delineation in television as well? So it might be worth just explaining that.
Yeah, there is in television. So similar to radio, the lead commentator tells you what's happened, and the summariser comes in and tells you why it's happened. But the lead commentator sometimes gets a bad rap because you're saying exactly what has happened, which everyone can see. So you have to be very careful as to what words you use and how you're adding to the story. And you're basically navigating your way through the session. So you're in the lead chair, you're kind of giving the information, setting up the story, and making it exciting for everyone. And then the summariser comes in and kind of gives their thoughts and on why things are happening tactically and so forth. So yeah, I mean, probably TV now. I can slip into that. Generally okay. If it's a test match, I'll probably want to have a think about a few things of what I might want to say, who my guest is, who the summariser is, just to see what I can bring out of them, because that's really important. But I think at the moment, just with where my broadcast is at, I probably have to think about lead radio more than anything, and it's very difficult sometimes because you don't have that time to be able to do it. But yeah, that requires a lot of energy because you want to make it exciting for people watching. You might want to bring out a story from a guest that you're with. You might want to say your own story about one of the players, and you have to be prepared to do that. And also just where the game is at and how you're describing things. So again, I'll look at different ways of describing something just so it doesn't become too repetitive, because on a long test day where it's just been, and he's forward in defence and he's blocked that one out and he's not hit that, do you know what I mean? It can get you can feel like you're saying exactly the same thing all the time. So it's about finding different ways of saying something.
It's actually, I think TV commentary is actually harder than radio commentary, isn't it? Because you're conditioned by the pictures. So firstly, you can't just go off on a tangent and talk about anything because you're relying on the pictures. And secondly, you have to add to the pictures because people can already see what's happened. Whereas on radio, there's a bit more license, Simon, in a way, isn't there?
There is. I mean, I think they're two, they're 2 disciplines really. I mean, radio commentary. I mean, it's quite high. It's actually interesting that Isha picked up about the fact that in a test match, the same things happen over and over again. I mean, I remember a test match we commentated on in Abu Dhabi, where Pakistan made 500 and something, and then England made 500 and something on a really, really flat pitch, and it was, and there's no one in the ground. A bit like now actually with COVID, and you're by about the 3rd day, you're thinking, like, what am I doing with my life almost? Because the same things are happening over and over again, and that is when, I mean, that is the hardest radio commentary going, I think. So the spinners are on as well, so you have to, because a wicket could fall in theory at any moment. You still have to be on it. You still have to be with the bowler, saying what the bowler's done and what the batsman's done. So, and it can, I think, for the listener, sound quite repetitive. And of course, if you just start start talking about a story, tell a story in the middle of a story, the wicket falls, a big moment, then you've lost the moment that you've been almost waiting for an hour. So I think both things provide different sorts of challenges actually. And of course, the good thing about TV in that situation, you don't have to say as much when two teams are scoring 500 against each other, especially if you're doing the highlights. But it might be just worth giving people a little bit of insight actually into doing how you commentate on the highlights, because last summer the BBC had both live action, and everyone, if you watch the live action, you know what we've heard, but the highlights, you got a whole day's test cricket and it's distilled down into 50 minutes. Now, Isha, are we commentating for all 6 hours of a test match day when we're doing the highlights, when we know that actually most of it will end on to use a metaphor, on the cutting room floor? So how do you do highlights successfully? Because that actually is quite a skill as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and that was actually the first time that I'd done it. So the method that I went with was just normal commentary, so I could be in the moment when something happened. And then as the summer wore on, I kind of got used to just commentating for a significant moment. But I also realized that is different as well in terms of my voice. So almost for highlights, you need to be more excitable, because only a small amount is going to go into the highlights clip. And when you're watching a highlight show back, you want it to have energy and not be like it's just come out of a long day's play. So that was something that I picked up from the summer. And yeah, just being prepared that you might not, like, nothing you say might go to air that night because
whole day wasted.
There was a great line. Ian Smith had a great line once. We were watching a Channel 4 highlights show, and at the end of the show, Ian Smith and Michael Atherton were having a beer, and Athers said, "I'm a bit disappointed." He said, "None of my commentary got into the highlights." And Smithy said, "None of your batting ever got into the highlights either."
Nice.
Talking of former people on highlights, just quick point actually, but Geoffrey Boycott had this amazing ability on a highlight show to tell us some really long-winded story. It was perfect for him because he could tell his story about Fred Truman for about 20 minutes and occasionally just look over at the play and go, "Oh, that was a rubbish shot," and then back into the story again. And he was actually very good at just kind of almost encapsulating a moment in the play, and then almost without drawing breath, carrying on talking, telling us the story. Ian, we cut you off with that little question, the second part of your question, which we're happy to I think he's just happy to answer if you want to give us that one.
Okay, so the recently mentioned Jeff Boycott was saying earlier this year that women and non-test playing men didn't have the experience to be analysts in the commentary box. What's your reaction to that?
My reaction to that is everyone is entitled to an opinion, but I think there are a lot of, while it isn't the same, it's the game of cricket. While women haven't necessarily played men's test cricket, men haven't played women's test cricket, so they wouldn't know, how that operates. And there are differences there, but there are a lot of similarities around mindset, around you still have to have a look the first half an hour of the day, get through the first sort of hour of play when the ball's moving around. Before you get to the end of the day, you're looking to obviously not lose any wickets and kind of manage those few overs before the end of play, which can be quite tricky. Breaking it down into sessions, issues with the ball, as I mentioned, mindset for a batter, for a bowler. There are a lot of similarities there, and so for him to sort of say that you can't commentate on something, I wouldn't necessarily agree with that, because I think everyone offers a different perspective, as Simon have said. While they haven't, they don't play men's Test cricket, they still offer in different ways, in the fact that, well, they're incredible journalists. You know, you're trying to set up the story for everyone. You're trying to bring out the debate. You're trying to give people a taste of where the game is at, the context of the situation. And I think you need a range of personalities within a commentary box, not necessarily just playing experience, but personalities, which I think we do really well at Fox. Actually, it feels like a family there, because everyone brings their different kind of quirks. And for me, that's what makes a good broadcast, is having the different personalities within a team.
Yeah, and it's a bit about broadcasting, isn't it? Firstly, and secondly, I mean, Jeffrey, we love him. Most of us love him, but he's actually made a career out of saying the same thing for 35 years. So, you know, he hasn't sort of broadened out some of his outlook. I mean, he's still got great things to say, but, you know, you do need to move on and get new voices in with different perspectives, different ways of observing the game, different experiences. I think it's vital, don't you, Simon?
Absolutely, yeah, and it comes back to the point I was making a bit earlier as well. It is also a broadcast as well. So it's also about a test of how good you are as a broadcaster as well. You have to have cricket knowledge, but it's also about being able to communicate that. I think Isha touched on that as well. You know, it's about what is the story. It's about drawing things out of other people as well. So it's more than just I know a lot about cricket. That's, you know, full stop. It's much more than that.
Let's move on to, just before we do the quiz, Isha, because we must let you go and have breakfast shortly. Let's just have one more question, and we should just talk a little bit about, you're out there at the moment watching Australia India, and in fact that we've got a question here from KG Camus, who says she's picking on someone here. I think KG's a girl, by the way. I'm not absolutely sure, might be wrong. Anyway, he or she says, what can we expect from Cameron Green if he makes the 11 for Australia India for the Test series? How is Cameron being spoken about by the media on the ground out in Oz? I must admit, I thought Shane Warne was almost doing something in his pants with ecstasy, watching Cameron Green bat. But anyway, what's your take on it, and what are the others have been saying about him?
You can say that, or you can say that people have been drooling over him.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was probably better put, actually. You put it better than I did.
That's what I'm talking about, you see. That's what I'm talking about, being able to encapsulate an idea very succinctly and aptly.
So are they all drooling over Cameron Green then?
Shane Warne is obviously at the forefront of your mind, Yoza. No, they are. Yeah, just from the first international that he played the other day in the T20s to the warm-up game against the India A side, they are just so excited about this young man. 21 years of age, 199 centimeters tall, but incredibly athletic. He's scored many hundreds already in his short kind of first-class career. He scored 100 the other day against an India attack. Looks very composed out in the middle, doesn't look phased by much. Strong player, very tall player, as I mentioned, and quite intimidating to look at.
And he can bowl,
you know,
well,
as he develops. Yeah, he can bowl as well. He's not bowling. Yeah, he's bowling 4 over spells at the moment, but he gets that extra bounce, that lift off the surface, and yeah, he's had stress fractures. So how much he'll be able to bowl in future, I'm not sure, but you know, these guys. So Australia are seeing him as a potential Ben Stokes for the future.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Which is yeah, it's pretty.
20 first-class games, 1,200 runs, average 55 with the bat, 500s, age 21. Very good. And as you say, he's nimble. He's a bit like Zach Crawley. He moves around the crease really smoothly, and he looks superb, actually. And they don't normally produce all-rounders, Australia, who, you know, I know there's been Keith Miller, and people might say Shane Watson, but who kept the review sort of business going. But they haven't produced lots of all-rounders that have a big impact with bat and ball, that put both, like a Stokes. So interesting.
Yeah, I see WBCC says, and it's actually the thought that went through my mind as well.
Get munted.
England going to get munted next winter. Yeah, I know. It's
I mean,
well, they got some pretty good players, haven't they?
Yeah, I don't want to put
The mockers on it.
put a shiver down people's spine, but it is looking a little bit ridiculous at the moment. David Warner, whoever's going to partner with him, Marnus Labuschagne, Steve Smith, if Cam Green has a few test matches before next summer, and then that world-class pace attack if they're fit.
Matthew Wade,
but
I
actually, it's going to be, I think with our pace attack, if all of our guys are fit, that was one thing that was, I thought, lacking in the last Ashes series, was that one pace bowler that could really just drive some fear into the Aussies. Ben Stokes, obviously, and if we can get Zach Crawley kind of consistently scoring runs and feeling comfortable in those conditions, I mean, he's good player of the short ball, then it will be a contest. But yeah, if they don't win those first couple or draw the first couple of tests, then yeah, it could be game over.
And what about India? What do you think of India at the moment? Do you think are they not as good as they were when they beat Australia a couple of years ago?
Well, they don't have Ishant Sharma, who was a really important player on that tour because of how he bowls to left-handers. And David Warner and Steve Smith return. I mean, David's not playing the first match because of a groin strain, but I'd say India are pretty much quite similar. There's still got Pujara, Rahane, and Kohli for the first test. And Agarwal, actually, he made his debut 2 years ago, but he's had a really kind of positive start to his test career as an opener. I think he's been one of the best openers around the world in the last year or so. So, yeah, I think that will be, Australia are definitely favourites, but I think India will put up a fight, especially with Jasprit Bumrah, Mohammad Shami, and Umesh Yadav.
We'll see. It all starts next week, isn't it? Next Thursday. I think it's time we do the quiz.
Yeah, I think it is.
Isha's been with us for a long time. It's been great that she's given up her time and a breakfast this morning in Australia. As a man who likes my breakfast a lot, I understand the sacrifice that Isha has made this morning. So the way this works, Isha. Well, first we have this.
That's the introduction to it.
So that's our theme music.
This is the leaderboard.
Oh, Eccleston Leach.
Yeah.
Well, there's
Eccleston
two of those.
Leach on top. Well, they did 5 points, 5 questions each, and worked together. So they were good. Alistair Cook was absolutely woeful. The only questions he could get were about sheep, basically, and some mid-table performers as well. So that's what you've got to beat. You got 10 questions, and you get two sounds. You get, if you get it right, you get a. He's got it. And if you get it wrong, you get a this. Okay.
I suppose we need Ian Smith to record a she.
We do a she. I was going to put, I was going to try and find us from somewhere and sort of put she's got it, but yeah. Well, we'll just have to go with that. I'm afraid. Too bad, isn't it? So you've got 10 questions, Isha. Simon, do you want to start?
I'll start. I'll give you the first question. I mean, I'm actually not quite sure how easy or difficult these questions are, Isha. I mean, I'm hoping you don't score 2 because I've made it too hard. But also equally, I suppose, I'm hoping you don't score 10 because I made it too easy. Anyway, let's see what happens. I'm hoping this is a nice, straightforward question for you. Number 1, who was your first Test match victim?
Was it Anjum Chopra?
It's the right team, wasn't it?
I'll give you one more stab. It's the right team. Everyone remembers their first Test match wicket.
We were in the field for days. It was flat road at
Well, that's a
Taunton.
clue. That's a
Natalie Raj
clue.
got
That's a clue.
200.
That's a
Natalie
clue.
Raj.
He's got it!
She's got it.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll give you a bit of help there. Okay, so yeah, you got that 1 out of 1.
She
Well
was my
done.
first Test wicket.
214 apparently as well.
Yeah, batted.
She's
She wore this
got out through
massive
boredom.
jumper for like 3 days.
God. Right, second question.
I absolutely loved it though. Sorry.
I bet. What a result. Yeah. Okay, you played 113 times for England in all formats. On what ground did you make your highest score with the bat? Do you even know your highest score?
Oh, so this is across all formats.
Yes, all formats.
Okay, New Road, Worcester.
Very good. 2 out of 2.
That was probably
And what was your
another
highest
one
score?
of my. Not many. 28.
31 actually. 31 not
Oh,
out.
no.
So it's all right.
Yeah, I know. I'm blaming Catherine because I could have got a 50 against the Aussies.
Okay.
for
2
getting
out of
out.
2.
Although we love that partnership. Anyway, carry on.
Right, you're going well, Isha. That's 2 out of 2. All right, number 3. Now we asked Mark Wood this question, so I'm going to ask you it as well because that's fair. I asked him, what were your bowling figures in the 2009 World Cup final? Okay, fair enough. Mark Wood didn't have to remember too far back. What were your bowling figures in the 2009 World Cup final? And I think because you've got 2 out of 2, you need to get it exactly.
1 for 24 off 5 overs.
He's got it!
Very good. Excellent.
Did I get that right?
You did. 5
my
overs, 1 for
God.
24. Brilliant. Bloody hell, 3 out of
That's a lot
3.
worse than I thought it was.
That's good. Well done. Right. For question 4, who was the last batter you dismissed in international cricket? An international match, not a tour match, while playing for England. Who was the last batter you dismissed in any international match for England?
I feel like it was in South Africa. So Trisha Chetty.
I'll have to give you a wrong answer for that.
Okay.
Chloe Tryon at
Right.
Potchefstroom, October the 11th.
Yeah.
But you took 2 in 3 balls. This is researched by
right.
Mr. S. Man. Right. So that's 3 out of 4.
3 out of 4 then, Isha. Question number 5. In the 2009 Women's World Cup final, what was England's winning margin and who was the player of the match?
Player of the match, Nikki Shaw.
a
Winning
point.
margin. Three wickets.
We'll give you half a point for that because you got Nikki Shaw, but it was actually 4
Okay.
wickets.
Oh,
So that's 3.5 out of 5. We're allowing half a mark for that. Okay.
okay.
3.5 out of 5. Question 6. How many sixes did you hit in international cricket?
He's got it!
That's an easy one.
Okay, 4.5 out of 6.
Well, you're going well here, Isha. You really are. Right, number 7. Which England T20 record did you establish? A record that was subsequently equalled by Nat Sibber and Danny Hazel.
Which T20
So,
record?
Highest. Oh no, I don't know. Subsequently, so both of them together.
Separately.
Separately, they
Oh,
achieved
separately.
it
Oh,
separately.
okay.
Yeah, so that you did something and they equaled it subsequently.
Mm.
I'm going to have to hurry you.
No,
Yeah,
no idea. No, I'm gone. No idea.
Okay, the most economical 4-over bowling spell in an England T20 international. Your spell against Sri Lanka in 2009 was 4 overs, 2 maids, 2 for 4. So you conceded 4 runs in 4 overs. and then Wyatt 3 for 4 in 2014, and Siva 3 for 4 in 2018. So all three of you conceded only 4 runs in 4 overs of T20 International, which is an England women's record. Okay, so what's that, Ross? 4.5 out of 7?
Yeah, 4.5 out of 7. Okay, question 8.
God, I'm slipping.
You have a degree in biochemistry. What is the molecular formula for glucose?
No. C6H12O6.
Oh my God.
He's got it!
Bloody hell. You're like Alistair Cook. You're better on he's better on the farming than he was on the cricket. Right. Okay. So that's 5.5 out of 8. 2 to go.
Isha, if I had a hat on, I'd take it off there for that one. But excellent. Okay. Right. So where are we now? 5.5 out of 8. Number 9. You're married to Richard Thomas. I don't know if you know that, but you are. Of the band Brother and Bones. What's the name of their new album?
See, I got asked this the other day, so I know it off by heart now. Dress the Emperor.
He's got it!
And we can even hear a bit of it. Josh. What do you think? You like it?
I mean, I love their stuff. Not being biased, but they are amazing live.
There's a bit more.
So
Actually. There's a bit more here. So just coming up. I like this build up here. Actually, it's really nice. Right. Anyway. Okay. Well done. That's 6.5 out of 9. So this is the killer question, which really will determine whether your performance is sort of average or quite good. Okay.
Okay.
Right. So question 10.
Pressure's on.
What did the England players always find both amusing and amazing when you turned up to matches or to train?
I used to bring lots of carrier bags.
Oh, yes. You got it. Excellent. And I so like that answer because it was exactly what I used to do as well.
Really?
Yeah, I was very famous playing the Middlesex team. All 10 or 11 of the players would have the big, cricket coffins with England tour of the West Indies on it, and I had 3 Sainsbury's bags. And you were the same. So explain that. Why did you have all your kit in plastic bags? Why?
I don't think it was my cricket kit. I think I just had loads of other stuff that I used to carry around with me, and I could never find just one bag to put it all in, because I had to separate it out. It was my organized mess. That's what it was.
7.5 out of 10. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's up there with that second place actually. Yeah. With Sophie and Jack. Yeah.
There you go.
So if you just remembered, actually, Isha, earlier you said, one of the great days of your life was the World Cup final of 2009. If you'd actually just remembered how many wickets you won that match by, one of the biggest moments in your life. You can't even remember the winning margin. If you got that right, you'd have been level with Sophie and Jack.
Over. Yes, that's true. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Level leaderboard with 8. Anyway, brilliant. Well done, Isha. That's fantastic. Great to have you with us this evening, giving up so much of your time. Well, this evening, this morning for you, giving up.
So what have you got lined up today?
Well, I might try and hit the gym, and then I've got India, Australia A. It starts today at the SCG. Don't know if Virat Kohli's going to play or not, but it should be good.
Okay.
But yeah, thanks guys. Thanks for having me on, and thanks to everyone who's joined in as well. It's been fun. Thank you.
Well, listen, thanks to you. We kept going on about this charity before, which Isha's obviously helping with, and the Cricketers Trust, Professional Cricketers Trust, massively important and still doing great stuff. Please ask other friends to join this club. Next week, I'm hoping to get Joss Butler on. Not actually confirmed yet because he's flying, but he said potentially he'll be able to do it. So, you know, that'd be great to get more people on for next week. It'll be the last one before Christmas. Also, just to say thank you to Beer 52 for supplying the beers that they have. This one, actually, I'm drinking tonight is Beavertown Neck Oil. I'm sure there's a few people familiar with that. And that is a cool drop, actually. So thank you to Beer 52, beer52.com/cricket. You can get your 3 at 8 beers sent straight to your door. So Isha, you've got to go to the gym. Well, you've got to have breakfast first. And is it going to be a healthy breakfast or a pig
eggs.
out breakfast?
No, healthy eggs. Love the eggs. But I wouldn't mind one of those Beavertowns.
A bit later.
It's
a bit early in the morning.
It's a bit early to start one of those.
And get Rich out of bed, the lazy bastard. Get him up.
Yeah, he's still there.
He's still in bed. I mean, God.
Do you see, this is his studio behind me, by the way. You might enjoy that. This is amazing. Like all sorts of different sounds and stuff. Yeah.
Really. He might like my little mixer. Look.
Oh yeah.
I've got a little coloured mix. I've got nice coloured lights on mine. And he's on tour, isn't he? He's on tour in next year, hopefully. Apparently.
Yeah. Well, he's got a few different projects going on. So he plays with Ben Howard. He's got his own. He plays his own record coming out. R.D. Thomas, Brother and Bones. He's also been writing a lot as well. So yeah, a few things up his sleeve. That is freaky. That is seriously freaky. I don't know how he does that.
You need to stop it now. Isha, many thanks for your time tonight. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone. Nice to see you all. Bye.
Thanks, Isha. Go well. Enjoy your summer.
Bye. Cheers.